everybody.
Justin, tell them what it is.
Oh, dude, it's gonna be a great night. We got a hognose guy, JMG, Jeff with JMG Reptiles. It's gonna be a good one. I know he's got some other things over there too, but definitely gonna get into the hognose tonight, guys. So it's gonna be a great one.
I'm kind of excited to see if he does anything else. To be honest, I wanna know if he has any other hobbies.
Come on, I'm sure he'll tell us.
I know, hey, it's the night, right? Looking forward to it. We're going to get to the comments here in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and run some sponsor stuff really quick, and then we're going to bring him on stage, and we're going to get into this. So I hope y'all are ready.
Let's do this.
If you play video games or drink the hell out of Red Bull, stop doing it. It's toxic, right? Justin he's drinking a Red Bull now because he ain't with it. And a lot of people like their energy drinks. But, dude, this is 10% off of clean energy, okay? Use 666 Serpents 10, and you get 10% off. I see him back there drinking water. That's probably the best thing, honestly, you could drink. This isn't really that. It's not bad for you. It doesn't give you the jitters. You know, it doesn't make your chest hurt, and that's what scares me. So, definitely go check that out. You don't get 10% off. It's really not expensive anyway. So
I don't hate on your W, homie.
And Gaps, I use it. Justin, he uses it. I mean, he didn't even know that he used it. He uses it. So it's a good product. If you want to try it out, please go to gapsecosys.org and use TRIP5 for your discount code, and you'll get 5% off. We're trying to grow the Gaps up. So help me out. Tell them Nick 666 sent you.
Come on.
Be awesome if you did. We're going to get to the comments after we bring up our special guest. I want everybody to welcome up Jeff. JMG.
How's it going? Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
How's it going? How's it going?
Going well. Another day in the hognose life.
Right.
Exactly.
I bet you get that a lot, right? Like,
no, not
hognose. What you mean, hogs?
Yeah, a lot of different, hog or pig analogies. Yeah, towards or even emoticons and stuff. There's a lot. Pig noses, pigs.
So we'll go ahead and give some shout outs to the chat, the people that are here all the time, and we'll just get into this. So, Kurt, what's up? Roll Tide, buddy.
What up?
We got a Ratty Cat. That's my girl right there. Hey, girl. Thanks for coming. Bosa, positivity, always. We love you. Mitzi's in everything, man. I swear to God, she's in everything. If y'all didn't know, the R.W.O broadcast has her own channel, so go over there, subscribe to that, and hit the bell, because that's where the R.W.O is every Thursday night. Don't want to miss it. Sammy, Pink Panther, what's up? 2% son of a... Hogalicious, what's going on? Good to see you. Thank you for stopping by.
Absolutely.
Platinum, what is good? They still haven't sent me my thing on that shirt, so I have to. I'm emailing them again Monday. Don't worry, I'm getting to the bottom of it.
Yeah, I'll make some of these blue too while you're doing that too.
Yeah, go ahead, buddy. Brave, what is up? Good to see you. Long time watcher. Black Lagoon, what's up, Tyson? I hope everything's well on the ship. He's our pirate friend. He's in the military, so he's on a ship pretty much all of his every day. So, Pete, what's up, Garden State Pythons? Good to see you. Thanks for coming. It's awesome, man. The chat's going crazy. Ken, thank you. What's up, my brother, R.W.O brother? M Proxima Reptilius. What's up? I tried so hard to say that right with a twang and make it sound cool, and I almost messed it up bad, so I apologize. Carl, drink beer, have a good night. All right, let's see here. Let's see. We got Duval. He's actually doing a show right now that I have on my other screen to help him out and fuck with him while I'm doing this, so it should be fun. All right, and we got one more SP Hognose, Sean. Oh, that's Sean. What's up, Sean? Good to see you. That's his buddy that he was talking about backstage.
Oh, okay.
Sweet. Good to see you. Well, we're all caught up with the chats. So again, if y'all don't mind, go ahead and put hashtag jmgreptiles in the comments for us. Thank you.
Come on.
It's gonna be exciting. So what's going on, man? You seem like a busy guy. Every time I see a story or something of you, you're like traveling or doing shows, playing with Pokemon cards.
Yeah, I do a lot.
Hell yeah,
Yeah.
man.
I
You
kind of hate
travel.
doing stuff, but I'm always committing to doing stuff, and I'm just always doing stuff. And if I'm not doing something, I hate it. And then if I do too much stuff, I'm like, oh, I got too much. But that's kind of how I just kind of tackle a bunch of different things, and sometimes I get overwhelmed, but it ends up being okay in the end.
Bro.
So you
Right.
travel a lot. That's what you do mainly is like travel.
Yeah, I mean, I've done both. I used to do a lot of reptile shows when I mainly bred geckos with my dad. We bred a lot of, leopard and African fat-tail geckos, and I had hognose back then. I had hognose the whole time, but, it was a smaller side project. And, we used to do all kinds of shows. And, leopard geckos and African fat-tail geckos, it's pretty fast-paced. They grow fast. They're very prolific. You get the morph combinations pretty quick. There's a lot of diseases in leopard gecko. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. It's really just a few. It's really like cryptosporidium you gotta watch out for. Then you get roundworm and bacterial infections, but there's a lot of cryptosis. So I learned a lot about husbandry, health, and then just reproducing those animals. And anyway, we did a lot of reptile shows, and it's probably why is this relevant. It basically kind of just like set me up for being able to handle a bunch of stuff. So now that I'm mainly hognose snakes, of course, because they're like my favorite species, and the reptile shows scene has changed, and I think it's really great to be at these shows, whether it's to network. I've met a lot of good friends. It's a nice break, from working on my animals, but still being involved. You know what I mean? Like doing reptile shows, they can be exhausting, but they can be energizing too, and exciting to do because it's like, okay, we're going to Seattle. We're going to stay at this hotel. We're staying at different places. We're going to meet new people. And so, yeah, we do a lot of shows now. We do probably like 12 big ones a year, maybe 13. So it's like every few weeks. So
that's
seems
a
like
good number. Yeah, that's a good number, man. I like doing shows because I like to interact with people. I've grown up playing music my whole life, doing things to like entertain people, essentially. So like I like to interact with people. So I'm the guy that's like, hey, get over here, come here. You're looking at what's over here. Just I like the people. That's why I like to do shows. It's fun.
So you guys do a lot of expos too. Then you were at the Southeast Expo, right?
No.
In Daytona, yeah.
We were there. We weren't vending though. We were definitely there checking it out.
I thought. Okay.
Nick vend shows. He vend shows once in a while for sure, but I have not yet.
I try to vend shows. I try to stay in Alabama, to be honest, because a lot of my ball pythons are like, they're really not that. They're not worth me paying for a hotel and a trip. I can sell them at these shows easy. Okay. They just go. So they're pet quality, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So like they go fast, and to go into other states, like you're talking about, you have to have permits, depending on what state you're in, sales license, depending on where you're at, or even what county you're in Alabama, depends on that too. You might have to have it, but I like doing them. I like going to them. I like everything about shows. I know it's expensive. You get a chicken tender basket and it's $25, but it's fun,
Yeah, no, the traveling is expensive. It's like the trips I do, especially when I go to the Pacific Northwest, Seattle and Portland. Those are my most expensive ones I do. Those ones are pretty rough on the wallet.
Oh yeah, I believe they can be.
Oh yeah, but it's fun. And for someone like you have a lot of quantity of ant supply.
Yeah.
For your demand.
It's good to have good supply. Because I have a lot of different projects. And so when you go to a show, a lot of times people are looking for something pretty specific and, precise maybe that might fit one of their niche projects. And I have a good amount. I don't have everything. There's always a couple people every show. They find, something I definitely don't have. Like they seem to pinpoint exactly what I don't have or working with. And they're like, do you have that? I'm like, no.
They just know. They just know somehow.
Yeah, they look over the table like, what doesn't he have? All right, I want that.
Heck yeah.
You have pretty much, I mean, I don't know a lot about hognoses, but it seems like you have a pretty substantial variety.
Yeah, good.
What is something like that? Like, what is your range from? What would you say from like a low end to the highest end, maybe that you might work with that might turn people off or make them want it at the same time?
I mean, I produce normals, and like, I mean, they're not exactly normals, but I do like, they might be heading xanthic and like posset something else, and they're really not much more than like a straight like wild type. So I have hognose for as low as like $150. So I have ones in the $200, $300, $400 range. I just did some auctions on Morph Market. One was like a $300 hognose, and it went for like that. It went for like I think like $280. And then I have some hognose that go upwards of like maybe $10,000. And sometimes the market reflects on or kind of influences what prices will be, because like in 2021, 22, when everything was there's a lot of ample money circulating, and then more people getting into it, and then you had expansion into other countries like China and Hong Kong, it drove up prices a lot. And some of these really high-end combos, you can get $20,000 for one. But right now, my most expensive hognose, I mean, it's probably $10,000, maybe $12,000.
And I was gonna say, hognose tend to like also through all like the bullshit like I watch with the ball python community and the prices going up and down. The hogs kind of definitely held their value and kind of held strong for a good little bit. I could say, well, they still
say from what I see, they do hold their value in my eyes more than a ball python would.
Correct.
They
like,
do.
The price isn't that fluctuated like that, as hard as it can't hit the ball python community, more or less.
Yeah, there's different aspects, because with ball pythons, you have it's a negative and a positive, I guess. In some sense, I'd say there's probably more negatives to it, but I've talked about this one here and there, but the mass importation from farmed, ball pythons and, Benin, Ghana, and Togo. And the thing is, if those weren't coming in, there would be substantially less ball pythons on the market, and your lower end ball pythons would actually definitely raise in value, because there'd probably be kind of a shortage. But there's essentially all these ball pythons coming in, farm raised, that are basically free. They're only a few dollars each. The pros, though, is you can maybe find new mutations. As far as quantity and production and demand, they're really not that necessary anymore, in my opinion. Same with like African fat-tailed geckos being imported from Africa. They don't need to be imported anymore, and they kind of don't. But that's a little different story. The reason they kind of stopped importing those is because of the overall health, because they come in with cryptosis baridium. They have it naturally in the wild. And then hognose, the funny thing is, like, you're saying, you notice the prices hold a little stronger. But if you talk to people that are just in the hognose community, and it's like all they know and they're newer, like, these prices are coming down. They're like, what the hell? This is terrible. I was like, in contrast to every other part of the reptile market, I've been in the reptile market for a very long time. I've been involved with it from the time I was a little kid, always been interested in genetics and just different species that are mainstream and also niche rare ones ever since I was little. And I go to reptile shows, and I've been in reptile sales, I'd say daily since I was like 15 years old. I'm 38 now. And I'd say as far as a snake that's easy to keep, or a species reptile that's easy to keep, that's also fairly prolific and is mainstream, something like a hognose, they actually have the best market, in contrast to not knocking any of the other ones. They're great snakes. I think the ball python community is awesome. I love ball python morph mutation.
We do. We love ball.
Yeah, the community wouldn't be anywhere where it is at without ball pythons either. Ball pythons, and it makes sense, and they're still, it's fun to watch all this stuff. All these things these ball python people are doing. But compared to like bearded dragons, ball pythons, leopard geckos, crested geckos, gargoyle geckos, corn snakes, hognose have the best, overall market. But some people's expectations got a little inflated during 2021, 22, 23.
Exactly.
They're like, they think they're gonna have like 1-2 racks of hognose, and they're like, I'm not making $100,000 a year anymore. What the fuck? And it's like, it's like the money's cool and stuff, but it's like that was like very unprecedented, is very unusual, and we're coming back kind of down to where it normally is. And the thing is, I try to tell people, I was like, hey, this is like a fun hobby. You can go balls out, and if you put a ton of money in the hobby, most likely you're going to get rewarded back, and you're going to definitely make your money back and even make some money. But some people are, used to the, massive income. Like 3 years ago, it was dumb. You could put up like $30,000 in hognose, and in a week probably have them all sold.
That's crazy.
That's
it was very crazy.
Kat's asking, I guess since we're on the topic, what have you found that's the most popular, like what do you have people ask you for the most or looking for the most right now in 2025?
I would say simple answer. I would say probably just like lavender.
Lavender.
For one,
I like the
a lot of
lavender.
people, yeah, and I could tell because I've had like multiple people work for me, over the years, and anytime I've had like, I have my friend Leslie, and especially if I'm gonna like, I'd see even with guys though, but a lot of women they'll be like, "What's those?" They'll be like, "This is my favorite one," and it's like a moonstone. But my favorite one's kind of like a moonstone too, and I happen not to be a woman, so everybody kind of likes those. Guys like them a lot. And the thing is, girls really like them, and I hear a lot of people, especially like the younger crowd and newer keepers, like, that watch Snake Discovery a lot. They're like, "Do you have a lavender hognose?" Because, Emily has them. She talks about them. And then when you hear that a snake is lavender in color and it's actually kind of purple. And then also people show them on video and they're like, "Oh, I can't really capture the color." And everybody bitches about it because it is tough. You got to take the pictures outdoors and you got to use a certain background for that camera to kind of really pick up the true colors, refracting off the snake, and it can be tough. And so you either take them outside, and sometimes you can get them pretty close, sometimes you overexpose them, but people really like lavenders. And there's intrigue because sometimes you can't get good pictures of them. They're a hognose that is like a kind of like a lilac pink purple color, and that's like a very unusual pigmentation to have on a snake. Like your weirdest or your toughest like colors to get on a snake are going to be like your blues, pinks, and like purples. And so when you have a snake like that color, so I say lavenders are ultra popular, snows. But if I was to pick like a single one that like everybody kind of asks about and they're pretty popular, I'd say lavenders.
Lavenders. Cool. Come on.
So where are you located?
I'm in Ohio. Very boring state.
Ohio. Let's go.
So is there, I'm sure, well, I don't know if there would be any laws like there are in the South, but like down here where I'm at, you can have Easterns, but you can't have Westerns. Is that a thing where you're at? Like,
I can have Easterns, but I need to get a permit. Ohio's laws used to be pretty lax. They got a little more stringent once somebody did something nuts. It always takes one dumbass to do some nutty thing, and then sometimes there might be legislation. But I can own. Like, I have beaded lizards. I have Mexican beaded lizards, and when they were writing up the legislation, no venomous reptiles, they just wrote venomous snakes. And so
always just snakes.
Right? Yeah, so they didn't write venomous lizards. So technically in Ohio, you can own Gila monsters and beaded lizards, and they're just considered non-dangerous in the state of Ohio, or not regulated, or a regulated danger species in the state of Ohio.
Okay. See, like in Alabama, I can't have a tegu because tegu's such a famous invasive lizard, right? Apparently.
Right.
In a lot of southern states, but I can have an Asian water monitor, and I have one, and I'm allowed to have one. And it's like, I'm not hating it because I'm happy with my lizard, but I had a tegu I had to get rid of, and it's just a weird thing that it's like, to speak on that just a second, they don't really know. They just make laws because they hear or they see something and it's a snake or it's a tegu. Because like in most states, like you said something about venomous, a lot of states, especially in the South, you're allowed to have, you can have any venomous animal you want as long as it is native to your area.
Okay.
You can't have a cobra in Alabama. Can't have, an Asian dwelling venomous snake or anything, anything like that. No gaboons, no nothing like that. So like, you can have rattlesnakes or cottonmouths or whatever, and it's just such a weird thing to me. I don't really. It's just weird shit, right? Like
whatever's local to you, pretty much, that you can catch in your back doors that they can't
because they can't be invasive when
they right.
That's
right.
Yeah, it's interesting how they come in. It seems like the legislation's passed by mainly people that don't even know what they're talking about, and it seems to be whatever the hot topic is, like such as tegus were hot topics, so then they're getting passed. Berms, retics, and so that's going to, like, I guess, have some ripple effect in neighboring states. And then, I've heard of other states too. I didn't know Alabama was like that, but where you can own venomous native. And then you can go to like Pennsylvania is pretty great because you can do whatever you want, basically.
You can do whatever you want, yeah.
Yeah, I think you can have any crocodilian there. You can own any venomous there without
Pennsylvania. That's where James is in it, right?
That's where James and Ken are, in PA. That's they can have whatever the hell they want.
He's got crocodilians up in Pennsylvania. It's crazy. I mean, I wouldn't want an alligator. I mean, unless I had a huge ass pond outside, at a facility, I wouldn't want an alligator.
Right.
But
Sure.
but they let them have
too
them.
much.
Well, I mean, I don't want to be the guy that has one in his basement and he's like, "Come look at my alligator," like get down in the basement.
Yeah, I don't know. Like that's a species that's you need to have ample space and ample money, and you need a
Agreed.
lot of dedication to that animal.
Agreed. Yeah, that's something like even my water monitor, right? I mean, do you keep big lizards?
I mean, my Mexican beaded lizard is the biggest thing I have. I had an
Okay.
Asian water monitor for a short bit, but I got it at an auction and I gave it to a friend because I wasn't equipped. I like the idea. I might revisit on it when I get an edition. Maybe I'm just so busy. But Asian water monitors I always liked monitors as a kid. I've never really thought about. Well, I thought about owning them, but never really gave it too much like serious thought. But when I see people with these big Asian water monitors that they interact with, and the lizard is, those lizards are pretty good at pattern recognition, and they get really, used to the person that caring for them, the person that has them, and
They don't bite the hand that feeds 99% of the time.
Yeah, they look like they make good pets. Like that Mike's monitor, he's telling me, he goes, yeah, man, if you want a giant like lizard, like dinosaur that's like a puppy or a dog, he goes, this is the species to get. That sounds pretty appealing.
They will rip open your leather couch, though. They won't do it on purpose, but that's why I tell people, like, they want a big ass lizard, and I'm like, well, look, I support you, but you better make sure if you're going to hold it a lot, when it gets huge, then you need to trim its claws because it will send you to the fucking hospital. I don't do mine's claws because it's outside, and I like to give it like bigger pieces of chickens and bigger rats so it can claw it. And it's like a raptor, bro. If you let their claws go and you watch them tear the meat up, when they're eating, they will literally cut it like a razor. So if you think about that, if you don't trim their nails and you don't really know how to hold a big lizard like that, they will rip you apart. You know what I mean? Like seriously. And they're not being mean about it. It's just how it is, but they won't bite you most of the time. But hell yeah. So you said you do other species. You have like beaded lizards or what else do you dabble in as far as like breeding wise?
I have a few Honduran milk snakes. I also have leopard geckos and a small group of African fat-tailed geckos still. I used to breed a lot of African fat-tailed geckos and leopard geckos with my dad when we did it as kind of like a
that's cool, man.
Yeah,
that's cool as hell.
We bred geckos to go with each other like as business for a little while. Starting it up all the way till like when my dad wanted to kind of get out of it, and then I kind of just deviated and slowly got out of geckos and went towards just doing my hognose, which is kind of like I always wanted to mainly work with hognose. Yeah, the geckos are fun, but they're a lot of maintenance. It's almost like farming once you have a lot of leopard and African fat-tailed geckos. I mean, they poop a lot, they eat a lot, so there's a lot of maintenance and a lot of effort. And we did that for like 12, 13 years, maybe 14 years almost.
Cool. Yeah. That's awesome though. You say you did it with your dad, and most people in the hobby have kids, right? And I feel like most of the people in the reptile hobby are always including their kids. Like my daughter's 6.
I like seeing that. Yeah, I think
she
it's
cut
really
her first
awesome.
clutch of eggs when she was 4. You know what I mean? And it's cool. It's cool as hell. I really like it.
That's cool.
And it's cool that it stuck with you. And I feel like that's a good thing because now you have that respect for the reptiles and all animals, essentially, not just reptiles, but it taught you to understand. And people in general learn a lot from animal breeding or being around certain animals. I feel, like I hate to say it, but kids learn about life. They learn about life and death. And it teaches them about eating, responsibilities, habits. I mean, everything that you want your kid to know and grow up to be I think is good with pets. I think pets are awesome.
Facts. So Jeff, so you did the geckos and stuff for a while. So when did you kind of like decide, all right, I'm gonna go full force and kind of hard into the hogs?
Well, the funny thing, I actually had a hognose before I even owned a leopard gecko. My
Okay.
third or fourth pet snake ever was a hognose snake, and my dad, he actually bred some geckos, but he mainly bred redfoot tortoises and a few different frog species. Like he had bred like Argentine, like horned frogs, tomato frogs, a few other species. But anyway, so I grew up around, tortoises and then, lizards and, this big collection of frogs. And yeah, I think, he had like, he had the, what other ones were those? The fire belly toads. But anyhow, he had a few other species. I can't remember them all because I was very young. I'd have to ask him. And,
Right.
he actually never had snakes. And I think since I was around reptiles and amphibians so much, when I finally did see a snake, because they weren't as much of an interest, I guess, to my dad, when I seen a snake, I was like, oh, I was even more intrigued because it was so much more interesting to me. And I was like, that's the only thing I can think of. But I really just had an affinity for them and really like snakes a lot more than, like pretty much everything else. Not saying like, I still, I like, turtles and tortoises a lot. I like amphibians. We go out herping actually all the time. Especially during when the amphibians are migrating, like the spotted salamanders around here and all the frogs. But, and then I wanted a pet snake. And it kind of started from there. And my dad was a subscriber to like, Reptiles Magazine. So every month he got Reptiles Magazine. And so I would look at Reptiles Magazine and there would be like a snake species like featured, or, lizard or, frogs. And then I'd read about people breeding them. And then you'd see like, advertisements in there. And I remember some like early advertisements from like when Pete Call and like the reptile industries and a few other, I think there was like even prehistoric pets was back then. There's a few other ones. A lot of them are probably gone now, but they'd have advertisements and you see like they had, morphs, they talk about. And so that's I got interested in genetics because like, oh, this is interesting. There's these gene mutations within these species. And, so my dad started taking me to some reptile shows because I wanted to go. At first, he's like, didn't want to take me too much because he's like, hey, this is like a 2-hour drive. And, being like 7 years old, he knows I'm going to want to go after like an hour probably. And so I started just getting more snakes and then I started wanting to breed them. And then I came across leopard geckos and my dad used to breed them. And I seen that, hey, there's like a bunch of affordable morphs and there's all these like polygenic lineages and these like, mutations like Murphy patternless and albino. So I started, my dad would take me to these reptile shows and I started getting leopard geckos and wanting to breed them. And then my dad got reinterested in it at that time because he's, taking me to these places, or to these reptile shows. And he sees me like, wanting to breed, geckos. And so then he started wanting like, hey, do you just want to breed geckos together? And that kind of took off from there. And then the whole time I was always like, even by the time I was like 15 years old, I was already producing like 50 or 60 hognose a year. So yeah, hognose were like kind of like they were always my favorite species. And that was kind of like my, really main objective was so, like, even though we were buying leopard geckos, if anybody had a cool hognose snake, I was all over it. It just took me so long to build up my hognose collection because because some people are going, why did it take you so long? I was like, I was a fucking kid. I was like in my teens. I was like, it took me a very long time to accumulate stuff. When I bought my first albino hognose from Ian Giandowski for $900, which was a steal at the time. I don't know, it took me like 2-3 months of like hard work, working demolition and like construction, like, clean up to save money to buy the snake.
To buy it, right.
Yeah. So is this now have you made it your source of income now? Like, is that this is your source of income? This is your job. Like you don't have to bust ass that way. You're still bust ass. Of course, we all know reptiles is one of the hardest fucking jobs you can do. Let's be real. It's a lot of work and a lot of money and a lot of energy, but you don't have to break your backs swinging a hammer no more. Like you've made it.
No, I did drywall finishing, and breeding geckos, and then making some money on the hognose snakes. But back in like my teens, like around like 2000, like 2005, I don't think you could necessarily probably made a living breeding hognose. It would have been very difficult. I mean, you probably could have. You'd have had to have already had an established, built up collection and have the right mutations.
Right.
But it'd be very, very difficult. And so anyway, I bred geckos and then it was breeding hognose snakes. And as my dad and I were growing the gecko business and the collection, I still had a job and he had a job. And then when I was like 21, we both kind of quit and went geckos full time. And then we did that for like another like 4 years, and then he kind of wanted to get out of it and slow down because the geckos, they can definitely get a bit overwhelming and drain you. And anyway, so yeah, we reduced the gecko collection. I still bred some geckos, and then started just focusing mostly on hognose. And my hognose collection was pretty large at that time, so it was kind of easy to take swing to shift to hognose. And so when I was like 26 years old, 25 years old, I was mostly doing hognose snakes, but still making some income off of my leopard and fancy gecko projects that were some partial like original parts of the collection my dad and I had. And then I kind of like narrowed that down. And yeah, by the time I was in my late 20s, like 26, 27, I was already full hognose.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Hell yeah.
So, like, who was your inspirations or, I guess, mentors, essentially, like you looked up to in the hognose game when you got into it?
Well, I would say the one problem with initially was, in the early 2000s, the late 90s, early 2000s, Western hogs are kind of treated just like any other colobrid. You set them up in a rack system, and pretty much all their care and most of the advice was like that would be applied to like a Lamprepeltis, like a king or milk snake. So, I'd say the one that I really liked was like Richard Evans. He's kind of like the founder of the albino, pink pastel albino, and the hypomelanistic, which hypomelanistic consequently gave rise to caramel/frosted. So he's responsible.
Hypomelanistic? That sounds insane.
Yeah. It's more of like a T positive albino. There's like
okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's Evans hypo, and so he was having a lot of people collect them as well as collecting them himself because there wasn't a lot in captivity like back in the mid 90s, and like if you're getting a hognose in the mid late 90s. It was kind of tough to get captive born ones there for a bit. You'd see a lot of wild caught ones. So like my first like 3 or 4 hognose I bought were wild caught. And there wasn't like any well-known like big hognose breeders. The only one was like Richard Evans. And there's this guy out of Lubbock, Texas that owned a pet shop, and he was into snakes, and people around there, like when somebody caught an albino, brought it into him. He did like a trade for some pythons and boas from what I remember. And then he's like, you know what? Somebody's got to start breeding these things. These make good pets, and we got to morph. And so they started putting out wanted ads for people collecting them. And so people in this whole area, then like outside of Lubbock, Texas, were finding if they're like oil field workers or just people herping would collect them and sell them to them, and they would sell them to the pet trade. And so for a long while, there was a lot of wild caught hognose, and then sometimes they'd catch wild females that were gravid, have them lay their eggs, hatch the babies, and have captive hatch babies. And then by the mid 2000s, there was a dramatic drop off of wild caught ones because the need wasn't really necessary anymore, and captive born ones were cheap enough. And so yeah, it was really Richard Evans, but I'd say big inspirations were, of course, my dad. My mom was very supportive, even though she's not a reptile person. And then Reptiles Magazine was really big inspiration. All the articles.
That's what I was gonna say. That's an OG. Like that's like I always had Reptiles Magazine, CCS Magazine, and Guitar World Magazine.
Right.
That was the 3 subscription magazines I had when I was a kid. Right. I'm like, I get it, bro. I get it. Reptiles Magazine was the shit.
Yeah, I'd say the Reptiles Magazine's like amazing. I credit them to it because there'd always be some cool information in there. And actually, I got really interested in genetics because of Reptiles Magazine. That's every month they'd have published articles, and whether the feature was a species that had morph mutations or not, there was usually some ads for somebody that had like albino king snakes or something. Or there's another one, pro breeders. They were in there. They'd always have like the blue gravel like background,
it's
and they
like
have
it's like the old school morph market, right? It's like the ad page for like how you go to the feed store out in the country and they got a magazine that's got like horses for sale.
they'd have in the back they'd have all the ads that you could run, and people would have like tangerine leopard geckos, high yellow, like these different milk snakes, and you'd see like Nerd was even like New England Reptile Distributor in there.
And that's why I always gravitated toward Nerd. Everybody always gives me shit for the way I do things, but it's from Nerd, from magazines like that, and
Heck yeah.
That's where, you know, I learned a lot of shit out of those magazines, man. I did.
Heck yeah.
That's awesome. You don't
Well,
really hear a lot of people that know about the rep. I mean, you hear people that know about them, but you don't really hear people that looked at them and were subscribed to magazines like that. You know, it's not a thing anymore, really.
God, the
People don't
internet
really...
fucked everything up for that.
Yeah, dude. Like, you'd wait so long to get your subscriptions in the mail, and then when you did, it was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good information in those articles because, you know, it was like always a new breeder. And then sometimes, you know, those breeders would have some like pretty interesting things to say about the species or maybe their care. You know, and that's one thing I see in the hobby now with social media. That's how, like, you know, there is a lot more information being shared, and you do see, you know, people updating the way they do things more and more. But Reptiles Magazine, yeah, it was definitely, I'd say, a very massive inspiration. Probably not only like you guys, you know, you're talking about it, Nick. I don't know if you, Justin, if you were looking at Reptiles Magazine too much back then, but I mean, it was always a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. I'm sure Justin got his fair share. His mommy used to breed birds. So
my mom bred parrots growing up, so I definitely dealt with it. So
speaking of that, you're about to get to know Justin a little bit better because I'm going to run this ad. Speaking of OGs, we got Vision in the house. Shout out to sponsor Vision. I'm going to run this ad, and then I'm going to let him ask you some questions. Y'all get a little personal. Are you ready for that?
There you go.
Vision Products has developed the slotted stainless steel Versa Rack, the best rack at the best price. The slotted stainless steel Versa Rack allows you to place multiple overhead light and heat sources above your breeding tubs. Couple this with optional Vision heat cables to also provide an underbelly heat source. Each pin of the rack design, making it modular, affordable, and easy to assemble. This design avoids expensive welding, yet maintains rigid strength and durability. Countless hours of design and prototyping led to the perfect end plate design to make the rack strong, easy to assemble, and keep manufacturing and shipping costs low.
Oh, sounds. I'm still muted, I think.
Oh, my shit's muted.
There we go.
I kind of want to get in more into like the breeding questions with you, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
I know the audience out there. You probably got some new guys out there that got hogs and whatnot. Kind of want to learn some stuff about it. I kind of want to learn some stuff about it. So I got some questions for you. Now, if you can't explain kind of with the hogs, which I do know, with the recessives, most of them are recessive besides two of them, correct?
There's a lot of recessive mutations. You know, you got Anaconda, Arctic are incomplete dom. Antarctic is also incomplete dom. That's a new one, and that's allelic with Arctic. And then you have
that's kind of cool to know. That's really cool.
Skullface is incomplete dom, and that one's a bit of there's some mild controversy there, mainly because I spent like 80 grand getting Skullface, and then basically they're neurological. I did a live on it like 2 years ago, and then that kind of like, or about a year and a half ago, and that kind of got circulated. And then, but anyway, there's more to that. But yeah, most of the stuff's recessive, and then there's line-bred polygenic stuff.
I was gonna say a lot of it next, besides the recessive, it goes down to line breeding, like which is like your Raging Reds and stuff like that, where they just brought it out over time and made it. Now, kind of how does that process work? Like I know some of it with the balls, like you would only do it like 3 generations, and then you got to add in a new line. Now, is that something you guys do the same way with hogs? Y'all do it
a little bit. You know, there's like there's definitely opinions and arguments on that you know, formula of like how inbred you can make an animal. And that's the one thing too, is like even the word inbred kind of gets some negative reactions. Correct. Yeah, and the thing is, like, actually I just talked to Warren Booth like just yesterday, the podcast I did with David. Warren Booth is like one that I touched on like that topic, because there's a lot of negative connotation that comes with inbreeding, because like, you know, people anthropomorphize a bit and they're like, oh, you know, inbreeding and, you know, humans is horrible, so therefore But in a lot of these locales of a lot of species of snakes and even, you know, geckos and other like lizards, there's a good amount of, you know, natural inbreeding occurring. Now, it's not directly like, you know, brother to sister, then brother to sister again. But there's a lot of like crossing like cousins and like partially like, you know, related animals occurring quite often in some of these, you know, populations. And so in captivity, I think some people scrutinize a little, you know, too much over it. And I think there's some fear of, or just a misunderstanding of how inbred the animal can be. And then so the other thing is too, that has a negative kind of connotation with it too. It's like, well, how inbred can this animal be? It's like, okay, it sounds like you're trying to push it to the limit.
Correct.
You can have, I mean, what with that one, the way to solve that problem, you can do it with a small collection, and you can do it more easily with a large collection. With a small collection, you just have to have a source that you're, you know, feel safe buying from, like another breeder, where at some point you're going to have to get new or outcross bloodlines to bring in whatever
new blood in there. Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
And so I have like my lemon ghost and red face stuff, and you know, there's actually, you know, I've seen, to try to summarize it and make the point like quickly, I've seen people with like, let's say, extreme red albinos, and they get them too inbred, and they do it. And the thing is, they have a good amount of them, but they just didn't start with a large enough base. Their original base was pretty inbred, and they just kept breeding those animals together, and then the offspring within one another. And you start getting short-faced, bug-eyed animals, and sometimes animals that have very poor fertility. Like if you ever look at my red albinos, like I just posted some recently, like a big one out in the sun. She's kind of just moving around in my hand. And if you notice, she has really good head structure. She does not have bug eyes. She has a nice rounded rostral scale. Like she has a pretty nice looking Nassicus look, wild Nassicus like look. Not like perfect, but pretty good. And the funny thing is, like people are, oh, you can't breed albino to albino. It's inbreeding. I breed albino to albino more than any fucking person, you know, in the hog community. And I don't have problems, but I have some pretty big bases, and I kind of keep weaving them in and out. And I kind of do it, and I imagine like a smaller population of hoggos would do it in the wild. And I have good fertility. We have a red-faced female that's laying eggs over here right now. My girlfriend's collecting them, and you know, they breed well. I have really good head structure, and you know, but they're inbred to a degree. They're just not like overdone. I'm not like F2, F3, F4. There's a lot of like half brothers, half sisters, and like, you know, partial half siblings being crossed into one another, and that's perfectly fine to do.
Now, I'm kind of curious too about your brumation, how you're doing your brumation over there for them. Like, are you doing a wine cooler and tricking them into it and then doing the pairing right after there? Or are you just like pairing them together? How are you going about that more or less?
Well, my schedule is pretty chaotic. So if anybody's ever watched me, some people ask me, like, how are you breeding hognose in like August and September? And I'm like, well, I simulated their season, and I do brumation. Now I had bred hognose without brumating them. I do really suggest brumating though. Brumating does a lot of wonderful things to prep them for egg, you know, production and breeding.
Right.
For one, it's just the natural cycle that induces that behavior. So what I'm doing is like I'm just simulating, you know, a cool down, followed by, like, you know, by, you know, a warm up and the proper conditions for them to produce eggs. And when you put them on an organized cycle like that, whether I'm brumating them in March, whether I'm brumating them in January, you're putting them on an organized cycle. And when you're not brumating them, you are not organized. And if anybody wants to tell me why not being organized makes anything more successful, feel free. But organization tends to have very positive effects with whatever you do.
Come on.
So I brumate. You can use your garage. You can use a wine cooler. I have a converted room that's insulated. It's 13 by 13 foot, so I can roll racks in there. Now it sounds like I'm just bragging like a dick, but it has,
no, you don't. Come on.
it has an air conditioner with an adapter, so I can get it down to 52 degrees in there.
So what's your temp that you're getting it to, and how long are you brumating them for when you pull them out?
Yeah. So anyway, it's like I've had success brumating. I've used to brumate hoggos in my dad's garage. When our basement started getting too warm because we had so many reptile rooms, I'd take them over to my grandpa's place, who is like very, very particular and strict. And, you know, his place is like immaculate. and he let me brumate his hognose in his crawl space. And my dad was even surprised because I can't believe he's letting me do that. And, so I brumated them in my basement, in garages, in my grandpa's crawl space. And now I'm a lot more sophisticated. I have my own cool down room. But the reason I'm saying I did all these different things, it's like over the years, I've learned that, there's benefits to brumating them a little colder. Let's say if you get them down into the upper 30s, low 40s, not necessary, by the way. Their metabolic rate drops a lot further. They're basically barely functioning. So for one, they're less likely to dry out, and that's another thing I came across, and I'll touch on that in a bit. And so anyway, I found if you brumate them, whether it's 40s, 50s, or low 60s, your success rate is about the same. If you brumate them too long, you run a risk of problems occurring. So you can mitigate that, though, by bringing them out of cool down, let's say every 3 weeks, letting them warm up for a few days. Get them all active. Make sure they drink water. Because when they're really cold, sometimes they're very inactive. And even if they do drink, they don't drink to their fill. Because I've had some where I got them to drink when it's like 50 degrees out. I pull them out a few days later, and the things are still like ultra thirsty. And so over the years of brumating them different ways, because I'd have hognose that get dehydrated in brumation, and I'd be brumating them just like on wood chips, like everybody else would, or like whatever bedding. And I'm like, I was like, these things brumate in the wild, like let's say in Montana, and there's periods sometimes where it's like 3 months of not even above freezing, and it's like, well, how are these things underground for months, and they are fine in the wild, but in captivity, 2 months can be detrimental. A month and a half can be very detrimental if they don't have water and they get dry, and if they're not drinking. And so then I was like, well, these things brumate in abandoned rodent, burrows and abandoned rodent burrow chambers that get backfilled because they're no longer in use. They re-excavate them out and they go down. And then, as the cold hits them more, they kind of just stage further down.
Right.
Yeah, and they'll go down into the substrate. And now when they go down to the soil, well, what's that soil? It's moist. It's going to have a degree of moisture in there. It's loamy, moist soil. And that's going to act as an insulation barrier. That's also going to keep their scales hydrated. Every now and then, I'm sure it might warm up. There might be some rain. It could maybe seep down there. Maybe they get a little bit of drink. But I'd say some of these probably not. It just doesn't make too much sense. And so anyway, I started brumating them on moisture substrate. I started doing like a coco coir with sand mix, making it lightly moist, just a few air holes. And, I'd have hognose, I'd brumate like that. And I did some experiments. I had some that went like 4 months. And when you'd bring them out, they wouldn't even be thirsty. They wouldn't even drink. And that's because they're able to preserve, their resources when they're in those kind of, in these conditions that, for one, they're cold, so their metabolic rate's really, lower. And so that's one thing. If you go colder, their metabolic rate gets even lower, so the respiration is going to be even less. And they're going to lose moisture through respiration. But if you have them in this moist soil, they're not really losing much, moisture from their body. They're not really losing much water. So the one thing is, though, I say, like, warm them up like every 3 weeks. Just get them active. Make sure they drink. And in that way, too, you're making sure they're okay. And you can see if anyone's, like, let's say, starts getting, like, it's got some, like, soil, like substrate stuck in its mouth, anything. And then you can know to pull this one out because, okay, it's having a minor issue, and we don't want this to exacerbate or increase.
Right.
So anyway, and the thing is, like, because most people brumate and they don't want to, like, give them a break. And it's like, in the wild, there'll be warm-ups, and they'll come out and they go back in. You can brumate a hognose, take it out for 4 or 5 days, 3 days. You don't have to do 4 or 5. 3 days is plenty, 2, 3 days. Put them back, and it's not going to break that cycle. Now, I like to brumate my females 2 to 3 months. I'd say 2.5 months is a really sweet spot because it's a short enough where you're really unlikely to see any issue, and long enough where you give them that long simulated period that's going to really trigger their body once they get that metabolic spike when they're being warmed up to want to produce egg follicles in the breed.
Follicles, correct.
And
okay.
Males, it's not as important for them to be as cooled as long. Go ahead and cool them as long as you want to take the break, but you only need to cool your males for like a month is fine. So
that's what I was going to kind of ask you. I feel like the males, maybe you could kind of cheat and not do it as long, and the females, of course.
Yeah, bring out your males
that
earlier
little
too.
Sweet honey spot, of course, like you said, because with the females, you got to have the follicles build for you regardless. They got to get to size and take in and produce the eggs more or less for you. Because I know it's what I do over here. I ultrasound with ball pythons, and we measure follicles, and then when I get certain millimeters, I go to pairing, and then once I keep seeing building and building, then I know I'm good to go. And hopefully you don't have absorption after it was like 30 something. Then once I get past 30, then I know they're not going to reabsorb on me. So I'm good to go, you know.
Yeah, that's funny too. That's one big like stark difference between like the ball python people, because I know they ultrasound them and they're like, oh, the follicles are like 8 millimeters, and you know they now they're like at 28 millimeters like a month later. Hognose, they go from having like no follicles to developing follicles and ovulating sometimes in like 2 weeks. It's like really fast. Yeah, it can be really fast. Well, a lot of it has to do with the temperature. The warmer the temperature, the faster the metabolic rate. So they see with python people, you guys are always kind of keeping them warm, so you're not really seeing big shifts. While with North American cooler brids, you know, they've adapted and evolved to, you know, they're ectothermic animals. They all are, but you see more of this change and disparity with their temperature fluctuation. So you can have a hognose, like, you know, if you're keeping them in like the mid 70s, upper 70s, they develop the follicles, the eggs, the follicle that's containing the egg a lot more slowly, and you have more time to pair. If you put them really hot, they're like, they're going to grow really fast.
Yep.
So yeah, python people, it's like, man, you guys, you know, you have a lot of time to pair. Hognose, holy shit, if you feel follicles, you got to get a male in there. Like
ASAP.
Yeah, you got to run and get the male and throw it overhand, not literally, but you got to get in with the female,
right,
like instantaneously. And even then, sometimes the follicles are so big. Sometimes the females, like, for some reason, are kind of shut off. They're no longer receptive. And then sometimes it can be tough too, because hognose can have different size follicles. You know, sometimes they'll ovulate and the egg will be a lot smaller. Sometimes it'll be a lot larger. Because and I don't even, like, some guy, I know that based on feeling them and experience, you know, watching this stuff occur. Because some guy messaged me once. He goes, "Hey, have you ever ultrasounded female hognose?" I was like, never have. I was like, it's a good idea. I've always wanted to. I was like, I just know it's not going to be particularly that helpful for me because it's such a short window. And so really, you really want to pair them before you even feel the follicles, because you kind of want to, because they can grow fast. So you don't really want to be pairing them, you know, late. And I told the guys, like, the other thing is too, though, I was like, even if you ultrasound them, I was like, you're going to run into the issue of having different sized follicles, you know, within just that female. And he goes, you know, he's like, that's funny you say that, because when I ultrasounded her, she had different sized follicles. He goes, they weren't all the same size. I'm like, yeah. I was like, there'll be various sizes, and they seem to, you know, vary between females. Like some of them, and you could see, because some females will lay these tiny slugs, and it's like, wow, that thing was like the size of a small follicle. It never got big, that unfertilized egg. Then other females will slug out, and they'll give you these giant slugs.
Right. That makes sense. That's pretty wicked. That's kind of wicked. That's kind of nice to know too. So like with the double clutching, it doesn't happen all the time. Now, when you have your first clutch, do you go pairing again or after that, or
I usually
how do you go about that?
I don't really repair mine. And most of them will still double clutch. And there's the one thing like correlation, like always, you know, isn't the causation. Like people will have a female, let's say she slugs out or has really poor fertility. They reintroduce the male, and then she has good fertility to the second clutch. Now, logic would deem that, okay, it's because you reintroduced a male. But I've had so many occurrences where I've had a female either slug out or have almost no good eggs in her first clutch, no reintroduction of male. Second clutch, all good eggs. And I attribute that, it makes a lot of sense, to egg follicle health. The first egg follicle set wasn't that healthy, so it had a hard time becoming fertilized. The second set, her oviduct is primed now, and they're healthier egg follicles, and then boom, they're healthier ones, and they're able to become fertilized. So I'm not saying that reintroducing isn't somewhat beneficial. You know, I have done reintroductions, and, you know, you get a lock, and, you know, the fertility's better, and in some cases I would attribute it to that. But very, like, I started noticing, like, once I've had females lock, I noticed this probably around, like, as like my early 20s, I would try to get additional locks. And a lot of females would just be no longer receptive after they are bred. For one reason, a lot of times they'd ovulate pretty soon after. And once they've ovulated, most female hognose they kind of like react negatively towards a male trying to court them. Because for one, they're already gravid, so they don't necessarily need to be bred again. And they kind of seem to know that. And so they're kind of like have this shift from being receptive before they're bred, then breeding, and then becoming gravid, they're no longer receptive, and the female will get really worked up. And so I found a lot of my females, once they were locked, really didn't want an additional lock, yet I'd have really good fertility. And so one year, I remember I was 29 years old, and I was like, you know what? This whole year, I'm just going to get one lock on every female. I'm going to be very meticulous with everything. So I witnessed pretty much every lock. Hognose lock for a decent amount of time, not as long as like a lot of your pythons would. But your average hognose lock is really in like the 3, 4, 5 hour range. So if you're down in your reptile room all day during the entire breeding season, and then you set a timer in the middle of the night, and so you get up in the middle of the night and you check everything, I think I only missed like 3 or 4 locks out of like, I think I did is like 86 pairings. And I think I observed 78 locks. And then a few females didn't do anything. And so anyway, I got the single lock, and once I got the lock, I'd get the male out of there, feed the male up. And the one thing is too, another reason I'm doing this too is, for one, if it's not necessary to have the male in there, it's more on the rare side, but sometimes you know this one, females will eat males.
So, I've seen the videos of them pulling them out the mouths and shit.
Yeah, that was fucking my video. Yeah, where it's like I was on the phone with my friend, and then I seen this female crawling weird and moving, and I was like, oh, she's eating a male. And so I just went across the room because my tubs are clear, and so I had to, I just popped her rostral scale up, and it started and the male started crawling right out of her mouth.
Come on.
And so that can happen.
I was gonna say though that I'm not to cut you off, but I was gonna say though how you mentioned back earlier how like they'll lay a clutch and then you could sometimes pair after. He actually, my buddy Sean had a clutch. It would be more, what do you call it, a infertile clutch. So it never got paired to the male. So it was an infertile clutch. So I was like, you know what, let's try to pair it since she laid a clutch. She's good now. Let's try to pair it. We paired it. The male, he was a beginner male, and it just acted like she was flapping around, flapping her tail, like, come on, give it to me type deal. And he just didn't know what to do. It was like dumbfounded the whole time, So we never got a lock on it, never got a second clutch out of it. But it was kind of funny that you said that, because it was like, we did try that. We're like, hey, I wonder if we did pair it, would it make it the next clutch fertile, So
it can definitely, of course, help. In some cases, though, it's like, again, it's not necessary. It had to do with the egg follicle health. And I've seen, again, because I've seen it many times where I didn't have a male reintroduced, and then the second clutch is, good. And the other thing is, too, it's like when you reintroduce the male for a second clutch, you have to do it fairly quickly most of the time. Most of my females are laying their second clutch between 31 and 37 days after their first clutch. So that means they have the egg follicle set already growing before they even lay their first clutch. So if you do want to get a double clutch and you want your female to be rebred to try to ensure, let's say, some fertility, again, I'm not saying for you not to do it. You can. I don't do it that often, though. I rarely reintroduce males, and I still get a lot of double clutches that are, of course, really good. The females retain the sperm. But you want to do it within like less than 7 days after her first clutch, ideally.
Okay. Yeah, you got to do it quick, which we weren't there at all.
4 days, really.
So even if we did get a lock, we wouldn't have been there at all any damn ways, We would have been too late on thinking on that.
Soak her, get her water, make sure she's hydrated, feed her, and then feed her the next day, and then have a male in with her the next day. So 3 days.
Heck yeah. Okay.
That'd be my formula for that if you want to reintroduce a male.
That's good information. So Hogalicious here said, we've talked a lot about the longest they can retain sperm, but what is the average normal they do? How is the percentage fertility for 6 months locked before laying versus just 2 months before, etc.?
The funny thing is, 1, 2, 3 months, it seems to be really good. Past 6 months, it's pretty poor. I've had a lot of females, because I've had females that, breed, I get a lock, and then nothing happens. And then let's say in the fall, she actually starts to cycle and she develops follicles because something triggers her body to do that. And then she lays her eggs. A lot of times they're infertile. I've had a female this year. Is actually as a female, I got to even pair her this season. And so she got bred the season prior. And so it'd been about 12, 13 months, exactly. It was a little over a year. And she was not reintroduced, and she was laying infertiles. And my girlfriend was like, oh, that female's laying fries. I didn't pair her this year. I was like, she's just going to slug out. And I know they can lay fertile ones, but just it's more uncommon. So I wasn't expecting it, even though I know it can happen. She goes, well, let me go and candle some of those. And 3 of them had embryos. There's 3.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And then I had a customer. He got a super Arctic female from me. He bred it to a super Arctic male. And he's a guy that I'd say is very legit. And he's swears he didn't put any other male with her. And there was Arctic anacondas in the clutch. So And so I was like, well, I did breed her to a AAA coral, but that's like a year and a half plus ago. I'm like,
So
that's
is she
insane.
old to retain then?
Yeah, that's the longest I heard, and that's still a little baffling. Anything beyond a year is very difficult for them to retain. And then 5-6 months is pretty actually shaky too. You know, like the funny thing is though, like, you know, you can breed them, get a clutch, and then usually the second clutch, no introduction. You know, you get good eggs, and that's by that time you're looking at like 3-4 months, and I usually have really good success. But like once you get past 5 months, the fertility gets pretty bad. I don't probably have a large enough sample size to give you an actual percentage, but it's low. It's under 50%. You know, if you have ones locked and then they're laying, you know, they end up developing egg follicles and ovulating. You know, months later, it does get kind of crappy. I had a female do it last year. It was about 5-6 months. She laid one egg with a huge embryo that was all messed up, and she retained it in her system for a long time, or inside her oviduct, so it was like suffocated. So that was bad. And then there was like a bunch of slugs, and she had a hard time passing them. And I had another female that bred, and then she developed egg follicles like 4 months, so not quite 5 months. And then she had a small clutch, but they were all good. So again, I'd say 6 months. It's like it's under 50%. Your fertility starts to get pretty crummy.
Do you do it egg bound at all?
Yeah, I get egg binding cases. I'd say egg binding is a culmination of like a bunch of different things and different cases. Some the females have pretty narrow ventral, and those ones seem to be like have a little more likely chance of having egg binding issues. So I like to make sure they have, you know, good body structure, like their head looks mature, like her overall body looks mature, and she has a nice wide anal plate, and the base of her tail is wide and not narrow. Supplementing a lot, lots of calcium. Make sure there's some D3 in there. You know, Reptivite. You know, I have a little bin right here.
Okay.
It's got different stuff in it. It's got
Heck
Reptivite. Yeah. I got a mix of like different calciums together. I got
so do you put that on your mice more or less?
Yeah, I do have my mice every feeding. You can vary their diet. You can give them hard-boiled eggs if you want. Just like take the shell off. Sometimes I feed them quail eggs. Those I do raw, but I soak them in vinegar water first just to kill any like outside, like maybe there could be salmonella on the outside of the egg. I know vets aren't really that concerned about salmonella, but I don't want it in my hognose snakes. So, you know,
are you doing frozen or live? That's another big point.
I do both, but I mainly do frozen. I do some pre-killed. I breed some of my own mice, but it's just so hard to produce that many. I do a lot of frozen thawed, and then when I'm selling to customers too, 95% of people buying from you want frozen thawed feeders. Yeah, and if you feed a hognose live consistently all the time from a baby, there's a large percentage of them that don't want to necessarily go to frozen thawed that easily. Actually, it's way easier to switch a baby that wanted scented frozen thawed to get it from scented frozen thawed to just frozen thawed unscented versus switching a live feeder to frozen thawed. On average, the scented is way easier to switch because you'll get some that are on live and they kind of just want to stick to that. And then you can scent your frozen thawed with live, and actually that's pretty.
Do you ever scent with like frog juice or anything like that?
Yeah, I used the Repson Texas scent strips. I don't have any here, but my friend actually makes them. I kind of encouraged him to start making them, and then he went all out and started making all these different things and like upgrading it. And those work really good. I don't have any over here, but it's
so you do agree with the frog scent as a good trick. I've heard
frog,
lizards, they eat a lot of
that's what they
frogs.
naturally eat in the wild.
Yeah,
so
lizards and frogs and other reptiles.
Yeah, the babies in the wild, a lot of them eat lizard eggs and small lizards. They of course will take small frogs and toads, but in some localities, like in a study in like Illinois. And then even in like the Platt study in Nebraska, a lot of baby Western hognose snakes are eating lizard eggs, whether they're like little skink eggs, prairie skink eggs, or like something like a 6-line race runner. They'll eat a lot of lizard eggs. They'll eat small lizards. So like if I ever have a baby hognose, like this is like a small, like probably like 0.1 or 0.2% of my babies. A baby that won't take a live pink, won't take a frozen thawed scented no matter what it is. A live pink scented, like, you know, you've tried and exhausted everything. And as long as your baby hognose is healthy, you know, they all want to eat. Because some people are like, oh, this thing doesn't want to eat. And it's like, it wants to eat. It's just not identifying any of these presentations.
It needs a little help.
Yeah, exactly. So if I ever have a baby hognose like that, and let's say I have like a little leopard gecko that hatches, that's like a little like runty and like really small, and it's not probably going to do well, 9 out of 10 of those that are not he will eat that small gecko.
I was gonna say that and some people are doing, over because the crested market, there's a lot of them. And I know I've heard of people using cresteds for feeders and stuff as well. Like if overwhelmed with them.
Some people,
and that's a very touchy subject, right?
Because
people get all hurt about it. But it's like you're feeding a rodent. What's I mean, the animal has to eat, right? So it's like at the end of the day, whatever that animal will eat. And I do agree with trying whatever you can to get it to eat. I mean, hell, I know people that put vanilla extract on rat's head to get their ball python to eat it. It's weird, but it works. So whatever works.
Vanilla extract works?
Vanilla extract will work for some time.
Wow, I never heard that's a new one. Who the fuck figured that out?
Dude, I don't know. It's the thing, right? It's like, how the hell do they
That guy had to be either like drunk or high or something. He's like, let's try this fucking
shit. He was definitely
sipping
green tea. He was definitely
that's an interesting one. Like, I'm going to try this, man. I would never think to try that one. Now, I've tried some weird stuff with hognose. I've tried like Jimmy Dean sausage.
You got vanilla
Jimmy Dean sausage. Come on.
It didn't work that well. Jimmy Dean, but here's the thing. Speaking outside of the box, here's Jimmy Dean sausage. That's like touching the box. Vanilla extract.
Oh, it's out.
I agree. That's interesting.
Vanilla extract, like you buy at the fucking bakery section.
Well, that's I recently learned too with ball pythons. Like when we have babies that aren't doing the greatest, I've heard people using yogurt, and you use natural yogurt. You just inject them with the yogurt, and it's all the antibiotics, everything.
Probiotic help.
Yeah. Right, gut help and stuff.
Stimulating their gut. And speaking of that, since you say that, Ken and Josh from Having a Ball in LMK, they told me about it, and I looked it up, and it's actually a thing, dude. Like, it is actually a thing. Like, people inject yogurt into their animals, even all different animals, bearded dragons, even all kind of different animals for that probiotic gut health. And it always seems to stimulate feeding, like wanting them to feed. And I didn't believe it. I was like, this is crazy. But dude, it's just like vanilla extract though, right? Like, it's weird, and it's really outside of the box. Like Jeff said, way over there on his own, but it fucking works. So
what do you think? Like, so can you do like hog babies, like pinkies of other rats as well? I mean, because essentially they're small.
Yeah, the problem, there's the size. But if you have large enough babies, they could take like an African soft fur pink.
I'll say ASFs, because that's kind of what we do. We do with the babies. Pinky ASFs and little fuzzy ASFs, and they'll take them down all the time.
Yeah, but your real small hognose aren't going to be able to handle it. But some baby hognose can range so much in size, though. You can hatch out like a 3-gram baby. You can hatch out a 12-gram baby, and that's like the one's 4 times the size. Correct.
Yeah, I was curious about that because that's one thing I noticed. Like we give the little tiny, and I mean they're pinkies fresh out. I breed a shit ton of ASF, so I can pull like literally pinkies fresh out. They're tiny.
Yeah, and those are good to feed the hognose. And touching on that one thing you guys talked about, like because like during reptile talks, like I gave this like it's like a little symposium, and I talked about hognose, and I actually brought up how I'll feed baby leopard geckos that are small or runty to a hognose if I have one that won't eat absolutely anything. And I've never gotten too much backlash for it. I think it's because since I do breed leopard geckos myself, and I'm not like because there seems to be this thing in the reptile community where it's like, oh, it's another reptile. You're supposed to be on the reptile side. But like rats are very sentient. Like they make good pets. They're like actually like they live in like groups. They actually socialize. So I think it's kind of like definitely more than hypocritical for people to get upset. Let's say a baby crested or like a leopard gecko. I get it. You like crested geckos, or you like leopard. I like leopard geckos. I like both of them. But I know that hognose snakes in the food chain, they eat small lizards in the wild. And if this thing doesn't want to eat anything, but I know it wants to eat, I was like, I bet it'll eat a small lizard, and they pretty much always do.
Shout out to our buddy Mission Morse down there. They did a show today, and they had a great setup, and they do hog noses. His wife actually is a hog nose freak. She loves them. And they have a lot of cool stuff, so shout out to them.
Shout out to Mission Morphston. Have a good show. Is it? Are they doing a show tomorrow too? Is it a 2-day?
I think it might be a 2-day. It looked extravagant. So they had fucking booty shaking music going on in the background. I mean,
Oh, that's fun.
it was getting down.
Cool.
But we're about to that point in the show. You talked backstage about maybe doing some snake and tail. You want to
Sure.
show some stuff off and
Yeah.
explain what the genes are, explain why it's called that, why it look, what makes that gene that gene. That would be cool.
Yeah, let me get out some decent examples here.
Yeah, man, take your time, man. No worries. So, Justin, I've learned a lot. I like your little one-on-ones. I like that because I actually get to sit here and drink my green tea. And
I know. I see you backstage.
We love it. Hey, thank y'all, everybody in the comments.
Facts.
I hope y'all are ready to see some cool hognose snakes. And if you're not following JMG, which I'm sure you all are, he has like 500 different people that I know that are following him. So let's go ahead and there we go.
Yeah, this is a Super Arctic Swiss chocolate anaconda. So you have an incomplete single copy dominant gene, the anaconda. And you got the super form, the homozygous form of Super Arctic here, and then it's homozygous for the recessive mutation, Swiss chocolate.
That's beautiful.
I love chocolate. I love Swiss chocolate too. It's one of my
How's the belly looking on that one too, Jeff? Is it all black?
Yeah, it's kind of like
wow,
kind of like smoky black. It almost has like a deep like grape, almost black purple or blackberry color.
Wow.
She's actually kind of putting out a good display.
So you said that's Swiss chocolate. Oh, look how dramatic. How they so cute.
I don't know if you can hear her hissing.
Oh yeah, we can. I love it. I love this.
It's like in the conda bellies that are all black. I love it.
Yeah, I think it has like a lot of times
dramatics. I like their attitudes.
I'll show you the one thing with the anaconda belly. This female grew fast. She's like about a year old. She needs to be upgraded. She actually is really taken off.
It looks like it's like posed like a cobra. Look at it trying to be a show off. Look at it.
I can tell you, I tell you, Nick, every time I feed them or even watch Nick feed or Sean feed them, I freaking just sit there and laugh the whole time. It is literally like, it's just comedic watching them come out and act like they're tough guys and try to hit it every time. To me, I love it.
All right, just so I'm clear, the gene.
That's my favorite part.
Chocolate,
Super Arctic anaconda.
Okay.
Super Arctic
anaconda. Super Arctic anaconda.
Yeah, Super Arctic anaconda.
With a name like that, you wouldn't think that it would look like that. You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, the Swiss chocolate is kind of like a hypermelanistic mutation. It increases a lot of melanin production, and then it also bolsters other pigment cells too. But the most dominant pigment, it's like, it's melanin, so that's what's predominantly being showed in this mutation, and that's what the mutation does the most. It expresses a lot of melanin, so you get a lot of like chocolatey colors, and sometimes even like dark, like kind of dark chocolate colors, or like more like cocoa brown colors. And then the Super Arctic, they're kind of like known for being like black and white and having like a high pink concentration. But Super Arctic messes with the melanin too. So overall, you have kind of like a melanin saturated animal, and then you have the broken up pattern because of the anaconda gene.
So that's clean.
So the anaconda gene is called that because it gives the anaconda circles.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
That's why it got that name, is because the original anaconda had kind of like pattern of like a green anaconda. Now you see some now that they can be like striped, but a lot of the original first anacondas that were made had like a green anaconda, like kind of like phenotype as far as the pattern.
Yeah,
well, some of them too, Jeff, will have that anaconda pattern on the side belly, and on the back, on the dorsal, you'll more have like the striping, which is really cool.
Yeah, let me see if I can get like an anaconda to kind of tell people and show. You'd think I'd have an anaconda really easily. Hold on. I know I do. What am I doing?
So we can hear you. So while you're doing that, what's like the temperature requirements for something like that? Is it kind of the same as a python, or?
Yeah, actually, Western hognose, they don't necessarily need to be kept as cool as, like, let's say, like some old world rats and stuff like that. Like some people, like, they tell me, like, oh, I have ball pythons or boa constrictors, and my rooms are a bit hot, and they're like, I don't think I can get a hognose snake. Like, well, what temperature do you keep yours at? And I'm like, well, my room's very, like, in the winter I get down to like mid-low 70s, ambient. But I was like, most of the time, like spring, summer, my ambient temperature is like 78 to sometimes up to 82. And I have my hot spots like, low to mid 80s. And for the babies, like upper 80s, sometimes
So
like
if you had a
Okay, so
python room
89.
that's in, like, for instance, my python room's about 80 degrees, would you need belly heat?
For babies, yeah, the babies definitely really need to thermoregulate. So I'm a very but once like for babies, definitely the one thing I'll tell everybody to do is like you have to have heat on your babies. It really helps them thermoregulate. They're going to digest and grow better. I've seen people try to keep them just in hot rooms and they don't grow as well. They can have a hard time, digesting their meals. Sometimes they even get this weird thing where they don't break down the meal properly, and it seems like it releases like toxins into their bodies, and they kind of get like their muscles kind of atrophy from it. It's very bizarre. I've seen it with people that have tried keeping hognose, just on shelves, but just in a warm room. Now with adults, the adults don't really necessarily need to really thermoregulate. Like I've had years where they need to thermoregulate, but they don't need to have like you can do like a warmer room temp. And in a large enough enclosure, there's like a varying temperature, like not really from the front to back. But anyway, like my adult females, I can keep them like at 80 degrees and just small, moderate meals, have a really good breeding season doing it that way. And the reason I do that sometimes is like when you have your adult female hognose like really warm all the time and you're just always excessively feeding them, you're giving them like these constant metabolic spikes that they're not naturally getting. Because in the wild, a lot of times there's like, temperature fluctuations at night, in the central plains of the U.S. It gets cooler at night. There's only like a few months where it's really, really, really warm and you have like summer-like temps, like even at night and all throughout the day. Obviously in the wild, there's thermoregulating more, but I've definitely had really good success keeping my females like low 80s and sometimes no belly heat and breeding them and, getting really good eggs. And the females don't get overweight and they're not like too ravenous because I'm not like keeping them really warm, which is making their metabolic rate in those cases much higher. So I'm keeping them a little cooler. I have lower metabolic rates, slower growth, and just overall healthier snake because it's more in line for like what they'd be like in the wild. Because in the captivity, if you're just constantly keeping them warm and they're constantly getting these metabolic spikes all the time, you're just constantly feeding them. They just like grow to these like insane sizes. They can get overweight. They can have health problems. So.
Makes sense.
That's awesome, man. Thank you for that. I'm learning a fucking lot, by the way.
Now, here's an anaconda belly, but this one's a little atypical because see these like
yellow dots.
Yeah. You have the solid black belly, and some anacondas can even get patterned down the center. But see the dashes next to on the sidewall.
Okay.
Usually anaconda cleans that up. Now these ones are like slightly nerfed. You can see they're symmetrical, but these dots here coming up the sides, a lot of anacondas. The white next to it is like kind of like a clean stripe. So this is like a more atypical anaconda belly. Now let me see if I can get
beautiful though, man. I think so. What's the genes of that? Just a straight anaconda?
This was an Arctic anaconda.
Arctic anaconda.
Arctic anaconda?
Yeah, Arctic anaconda. So yeah, basically it's like just got one other incomplete dom.
That's crazy. That's exactly what Sean's got over here is an Arctic anaconda. I had to look real quick.
Now this one's a super conda.
Those are sick. The super condos are cool. Too. Yeah, the super condos are really cool with the no pattern on them. They're freaking.
It really is. They're very popular too. But see what I mean with the? Hold on, like I don't want to flip these hognose around too much.
Don't piss them off. They're mildly venomous.
That's true. All right, you see what? You can't really see what I'm talking about. But you see how she has the dashes or right up her sides here.
Oh, for sure,
okay. Yep.
See along that white, there's a little dots, and then with him, it's all clean white.
It's clean,
next to the black.
Clean.
Oh, that's nice. See, that's
and you see that with most anacondas and super condas, they don't have the dashing next to on their sidewalls there.
Well, thank you for tapping in, Jamie. I've learned a lot from Jeff.
Got some Mai Tai? Can we see some Mai Tai?
Yeah, because these are Mai Tais.
Man, look, Justin throwing out the genes. He knows, dude. That's what I'm talking about, homie. See, I don't know.
The lavenders are clean. I love the lavender. Like when he said the lavender, it's one of my favorite of Sean's that he has in here. Is that purple lavender is just amazing. I call it steel. Well, steel is what we named it.
What was that snake that hognose that I really like? The red one with the super fucking
the raging red. That was one of Scott's raging reds.
Oh, that fucking the scales on the on that.
It's
hog
red. It's super
it was like
red.
it felt like a fucking rattlesnake scale or something. Like it actually felt like a snake. It wasn't smooth like a fucking ball python. You know, it felt like you could feel the.
Oh yeah. The raised scales on them compared to a ball python.
But that red and black, dude, or whatever, that red, oh my God, dude. That was fucking awesome. That made me want to buy them when I was in Daytona. I was looking, but I couldn't find them for cheap enough.
Hey, the man's right there. You're talking to the man right there.
I know. He's making me want to buy some shit. That shit's awesome.
Look at that. That is her egg box, so she's got coco coir on here or on her. But this is an RBE Superconda Mai Tai. So this is a Super Anaconda Toffee Sable, and she has that nice RBE red lineage in her. So she's like kind of like this fiery, deep orange, reddish color.
That is amazing.
Look at that. So what's the belly on something like that look like? I mean,
it's like soft cocoa brown.
It
it's
kind of
like
looks
cocoa,
chocolate, like cocoa powder or something. So that red is making the black belly more brownish, I guess.
Yeah, so this is essentially a T positive albino sable with super anaconda, and then there's some polygenics in there, that the red RBE line.
Wow, that is just sick. It looks like that snake should have a demonic name. Is it named?
Yeah, the red line's polygenic.
Yeah,
that's exactly how.
What's up with someone in the comment? Jamie Colzer said color blast. What are they talking about? It's a color blast.
Color blast. Oh,
I'm intrigued. I mean, this is the man, like Justin said. This is the hog man. So if y'all have any questions, feel free to ask, because
any questions in the chat, guys, throw them out there.
For sure. I'm enjoying this, and I hope everybody in the chat is. Thank you for hitting that like button. Thank you for the people that hit the dislike button. We love you too. No hate, no shame.
Give us thumbs up or thumbs down. We won't hate you.
It don't matter. We don't care. And a big shout out to Vision, www.visionproducts.us for all your reptile rack.
Oh yeah, look at that.
This is one of my favorite color blast females. She is in shed though, so I was like, oh great. So her colors
Dude, even in shed, I wouldn't have never guessed that snake was ever in shed.
You can see her eyes are a little milky.
Yeah, but I mean that red and orange and yellow, all the contrast of all the reddish tint is coming through so well. Wow, look at the belly. Okay.
It's like lavender.
Wow, the belly on that is dramatically. I mean, it's the complete opposite spectrum of the light. So I have a question while you're doing this. I mean, it might be a crazy question, but why do you wear gloves?
Well, I'm going from different racks to different racks, and so I keep everything.
Smart.
I was just curious. Just let people know.
Yeah, oh no, of course, good question. I'm very strict with my quarantine, and so like that even kind of, I was like, maybe I won't wear gloves. I can wash my hands, but for one, this is my baby section. I have some adults over there. I just went and pulled out an adult, so. They're different, from different sections, and each rack I change gloves. Anybody I have help that works for me, we change gloves between every single rack. We have different carts and supplies for different areas, and this is because there's things like cryptosporidium in hognose snakes. Now, everything in this collection I produce myself. Like anything in my main section, I produce myself. When I get new hognose in, they never even make it to my main collection. Like I can test them up.
And you hit on that.
Yeah,
you hit on that crypto. And I don't want to dive too deep in it. We don't usually go too long, about an hour and 30 minutes. We're almost there, but real quick, just a quick explanation to let people know that is very prominent in hognose, right?
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it's becoming. The thing is, what happens is if it's not too prominent in a species, but they can get it, and let's say some people, unfortunately, contract it in their collection, and people aren't quarantining, it'll start to become a problem. And that's what happened with hognose snakes. Like, if you would have asked me about cryptosporidium in hognose snakes 18 years ago, while I would be very vocal about it for, like, Eugloferis, like, your leopard geckos, your eyelid geckos, fat-tailed geckos, and I'd be talking about it
crested
with
geckos, too. Crested geckos.
That's another good one. Well,
a lot of getting it lately.
Well, the funny thing is, too, crested geckos are kind of like in that same, like, the same group of like hognose, because if you asked me 18 years ago about cryptosporidium and hognose, I'd be like, oh, don't even worry about it. I've never even seen a hognose with it, never even heard of a hognose with it. Same with crested geckos. I used to even tell people, hey, you see it in the Eugloferis a lot. I'm like, yeah, and I was talking to in my Discord, like it's like about 3 years ago, and somebody corrected me. I know a lot about Cryptosporidium. I had a lot of experience with it with fat-tailed geckos and leopard geckos. It's extremely
unfortunately
tricky.
right? Unfortunately,
Yeah, it's very
bad
unfortunate.
thing.
I would say, well, for one, is probably some of the most depressing, horrible stuff I've ever seen in my life. I didn't think there would be. I thought there was like absolutely no positive or pros to it. I wouldn't say there necessarily is pros or positives, but I didn't think there could be anything good to come from it. I just thought this is just like basically beyond like terrible. But now that I have the information and stuff, and because when you actually see what it does and you can see how it can act, because for one thing, it could be asymptomatic, and those asymptomatic ones could be extremely dangerous because they can pass it the other ones, or they can have a very low infection rate.
Well, and see, my buddy, actually, the reason I mentioned cresteds, he does cresteds. He lives down the street, and he's had a run-in with it. Unfortunately, it's an unfortunate fucking thing because once you have it in your collection, it's a very fucked up thing. You have to test all these animals. It's a very expensive process. It's heartbreaking because the ones that have it, you have to put them down essentially because there's no curing it, and it's very, very, what do you call it?
Contagious.
Yeah, contagious. So my thing is like, and I've also heard about it. I don't know if y'all have, but like in the Midwest, a lot of it is in the Midwest. Because I just started researching it, and I feel like a lot of where a lot of cases come, but the vets at Auburn University in Alabama, like the War Eagle Tigers, the Auburn University, they're like a vet med. They do like the horse, the farm, they're all vet. It's like livestock, whatever, 4-H shit. But he takes his animals there, and they've been doing research on it, and they've been telling him that mainly most to all reptiles carry that, kind of like how we carry what do you call it? Like if you get that infection, I don't know.
Like human papillomavirus?
Yeah. Like we carry it, but it's only whenever it's infected or it comes across that if your immune system's low or whatever the case is, that they can get sick from it and then it becomes an issue. But I've heard that it's always in them, that they have it.
Yeah, Cryptosporidium, it's a single-celled organism parasite. It's extremely, they call it crypto for a good reason. It's very cryptic. It's very hard to find in tests. You see a lot of false negatives because the PCR tests just aren't picking them up.
That's why he's been coming into a lot of false negative for sure.
False negatives, that's why it's like when I get new hognose snakes, they don't make it to my main collection ever. They never get brought into my main collection. If I tested them 10 times and they were negative, I was like, I don't give a shit. They're not coming into my collection. So only hatched babies because they can't hatch with it. So this is all stuff I learned from doing leopard geckos and African fat-tailed geckos. So I extrapolated a lot from my work with leopard and African fat-tailed geckos. And actually, the funny thing you're talking about your friend, one of the most the leading thing, let's say, as far as discoveries and like information when it comes to animal health, supplementation, I'd say livestock is a really good one to pull from because livestock is a $1 trillion industry. Yeah. And most of these like these antibiotics we even give to our animals, they're formed around livestock, like Baytril. It's for mainly animals. Like, you can use it for dogs and stuff. Yep. But a lot of these drugs, like also for humans, like you can give ciprofloxacin to a snake, and ciprofloxacin I take people can take metronidazole. But anyway. For sure. Yeah, and even like ivermectin, that's for, that works broadly across mammals.
You have horse, you have chicken, goat. We have all kind of different things that not only we take, but they will give to your reptiles. It's just very diluted.
Yeah, ivermectin doing crazy shit out there too.
It's the same thing though. You just have to look up how to do it. And then
yeah, and so
you're right.
But yeah, so I've learned a lot about quarantining, and so that's why quarantine is like just very like I just take it very seriously. And so, like, I'll handle my hognose sometimes without gloves, but overall, washing your hands and arms is very important because, if you get cryptosis, let's say, on your hand, I'm not going to because, like, I'm just in my main collection. But, if you wash your hands and arms, I mean, you're washing off the cryptosis. All those, like, crypto cells are being washed off. So if you wash your hands and arms really good, it actually protects against cryptosis. That's, like, one of the best ways to actually get rid of it is washing. Because you know, I mean, you can't wash your hands with like pure ammonia or high grade peroxide. I mean, technically you can, but you're gonna fuck up your skin, and you can't really do that.
And you're not. Who's gonna really do that though? You
No,
know,
no, you're gonna hurt your body.
But I mentioned the glove thing because you wear gloves, and if people watch the R.W.O show, I clean a lot and I do maintenance while we do the show, and they'll probably notice me changing gloves a lot. And it's because I'm like you know, I try to be extra safe. I might do 5 tubs. All my snakes are not sick. None of my snakes are sick, but it's like you don't never know. So like I might do 5 snakes, change gloves. 5 snakes, you know, or whatever, you know, 2 or 3, whatever.
Yeah,
whenever
we're also protecting bacteria transfer too.
It's
you know,
through
and also
poop, right? Like poop and
cross contamination is very, very easy. Cross contamination is very
it's like it's so easy. It's like that.
People don't understand. Like you could go overnight. I'm like I got my CNA and my phlebotomy, so when I had to do my state test back in the day, like you could just take your hand over something that's contaminated, or take your hand that's contaminated over something, and you just contaminated everything that's around you. You know,
I did bio.
You're gonna fail that state test just like that, 100%. You know, more or less. That blew my mind. Like you said with gloves, it's the truth. Like cross contamination is so freaking easy. It's ridiculous. You could do it not even realizing you're doing it.
Good, it's good to take these precautions. Like like if you don't invest in stock and hand sanitizer, you need to do it because you're going to be buying a lot of this shit in the reptile hobby.
Yeah, I use spray rubbing alcohol sometimes. Cleaning, I like to use peroxide. Hand sanitizer, it's a good antiseptic for like bacteria, but it doesn't kill like cryptosis. So like when you're sterilizing, we want to use like high grade stuff like peroxide. But even then, like, you know, it's like people like if they ever have a crypto outbreak, unfortunately, get rid of all those enclosures unless you want to clean them out and then store them for like 5 years and then clean them again with something.
That's what my buddy's going through. He's sad, man, because my buddy's he got into crested geckos when crested geckos were tens of thousands of dollars. So he's got a lot of money in this shit, you know, and he's like, and on the enclosures, he's got a fuck ton of enclosures because cresteds, they can't be in a bin, of course. So you have to have these nice enclosures, plexiglass, whatever. He's got like bioactive shit, and he has to get rid of everything. And it's like, he doesn't have to, but it's like you said, well, you have to soak it in such a percentage of hydrogen peroxide for so many, like 24 to 48 hours or some shit, or
you gotta let air dry.
I mean,
the one thing I worry about those ones too is like because like if you use like 6% or better, so usually what I do is I buy 12% and I get 3% because 3% is pretty cheap, and I mix it 50-50 and that makes 7.
Gotcha.
But the thing is, I mean, if let's say you go over something and it's like, what if there's a micro scratch that the peroxide just didn't hit right, you know? So
exactly.
I'm like if I ever had an rack system with it, you know, I wouldn't really want to use that rack again for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a very scary thing, and I try to be nice and be positive with people like my buddy. And I'm like, dude, it'll be okay. But like, I hope to God, like, I don't even want him to come in my reptile room. You know, I'm like, no, I don't even know.
Come in my house. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean, but you got to make it outside, you know.
He's my friend, a real friend. Like,
here's the hazmat suit, bro.
I haven't heard from him. He doesn't want to come over, you know, because he doesn't want me to come over. Like, he had some badass cresteds hatch out, and I wanted to see him. I wanted to bring my daughter over there because she loves his lizard room, you know. And he's like, "There's no way I'm letting y'all in my house." He's like, "You have your snakes." And that shit is so contagious. It's like COVID or something, you know. Like
it's very contagious. But the one thing is, it is all transferred by touch. So you know, if you ever came over, you could. If somebody had cryptosis, as long as I don't think they're like a total insane person that's going to try to purposely infect my stuff, I would just have them take a shower. Like just take a shower, put on new clothes, and they're fine to come over. It's all transferred by touch. It's all
what do you call it?
Contamination.
It's like you have to go through an OSHA class to come in.
It's not passable to the babies, so technically he could take those babies and gotten them out of the situation pretty quick, keeping them from getting that. I'll
give you an example. My dad and we've hatched at least about 800 geckos from crypto positive adults, and those babies were fine. Now there's some question as to like, can it be on the outside of the egg, the baby hatched and
That's what I was
themselves?
just thinking.
Yeah.
That is exactly what I was thinking, dude.
It's possible, but the one thing is, like, you know, like chickens, and someone they lay their egg, there's like a bloom, there's like this coating, there's this cuticle.
Correct. Correct.
And geckos have that too, and so I think it's gonna lock in or not, because the thing is, like, especially if, like, what I do is I bury the eggs, so when the babies hatch out, they're coming in with limited contact to no contact with outside of the eggshell that I'm getting them out of there. But I've hatched so many, and see, the thing is, crypto is so damn you know, contagious, and it's you know, so prevalent. Like when your leopard geckos have it, you know, they're just shutting off like hundreds of millions of oocysts, crypto egg cells to oocysts, and they're getting over everything. And for us to have hatched out like 1,000 babies from crypto positive, like wild caught African fat-tail geckos and other leopard geckos, and those babies never ever getting it, I think it's very unlikely that they do contaminate it that way. And you got to think is like, if that is possible for them to like easily get it from the eggshell, with as common as cryptosis has been in the reptile community, I'd say most people would be totally screwed if their species can get it, because there'd be like no way to really get around it. But I'm very confident with them hatching from an egg, they're pretty much like almost like 100% safe. Now I don't want to say like I said close to 100%. I've never experienced babies hatching out from an egg, moving them to a clean section, and those ones ever having cryptosis. And they're very sensitive as babies too.
Oh yeah, they're very sensitive, for sure. I can tell you they're very sensitive as babies.
You just want to get them in like a new enclosures and new rooms. So like when I've helped a number of people with hoggos that have cryptosis, like, you know, especially in the last like 6 months to a year, probably talked to about a dozen people that have gotten cryptosis, and luckily they're not like completely destroyed by it. They're like, they still kind of want to continue. They're not really like, you know, they haven't lost all hope. And I'm like, hey, and they have a lot of extra money. I'm like, get a new rack system. You got eggs. Hatch those babies out. Get them a new rack. Do everything. Those babies will be fine. But you just can't have them where your adults are at. Don't put them in anything like.
Separate, so much include like, everything. More
yeah,
or less.
Exactly. It's got to be like, here's the thing. You're going to have cryptosis like in this rack, and then this rack have nothing. And as long as you're not touching, these ones won't get it. It's all transferred by touch. So, but this is an example. Nothing I have here, it has cryptosis. I know a lot about cryptosis. So,
right. Just an example, guys. Just an example.
Yeah, it's just a fucking example.
I just wanted to touch on it for a second because it has been. I feel like it's more common now than ever, and I feel like there's not a lot of people really talking about it. And I just wanted to hear your thoughts and opinions on it.
Yeah, right. It's not really. Yeah, it's not a fun one to talk about. So, but
it's not, and it's controversial because people get pissed because they've invested or they don't want to believe it. But you know, just research it. You know, and research about it, learn about it. If you see any signs in it, like he said, it's very hard with testing. You got false negatives, you got false positives. I'm sure. So it's like. You really need to find a good vet if you think your animal is sick at the end of the day, regardless if it's crypto or not. But you know, research that because that's a scary thing. And I guess since we got a couple minutes left, we'll go ahead and answer this last question about the diet. So Mike Duval from MorphAv is asking, is quail a good source of diet for hognose?
Yeah, I just do the small quail where their feathers are really. So I mean, you can't do a large quail anyway. But you know, given the size of hoggos, but yeah, quail are good. The only thing I'd ever be like a little worried about is like, you know, like salmonella, and you know, I talked to like leading like vet authorities, and they don't really agree with me. But the one time I had like hognose get salmonella from mice, and they got sick from the salmonella. You know, like I had African fat-tail geckos get sick from salmonella. Now everybody I've seen feed quail to hognose, and I've actually fed quail eggs, and some people were saying that their quails, as far as like they're pretty clean, and they don't really have like, you know, issues with salmonella with them, and they've had them tested. I'm not sure how true that is. But, you know, that's the only thing I'd be worried about. But so far, everybody I've seen them feed quail to, they do well. In the wild, baby hognose actually, believe it or not, sometimes eat baby birds. You know, they eat lizard eggs in the wild. They'll eat other snake eggs sometimes. And if there's ground nesting bird eggs, like you have like meadow larks and killdeer, they'll eat their eggs. And if there's a little bird, hognose are pretty opportunistic. There's actually been in the Platt study and several other like people come across they're adult hognose eating like fledgling birds, baby birds, and
Really?
It makes up a small portion of their diet, but I think it's a good thing to vary their diet with. I think quail's good. Quail eggs.
I can see the bird going down. I can see the bird going down, messing with it, and then biting the bird. Of course, rear fang venomous.
Well, you got rear fang, right?
Right.
Yeah,
most rear fang snakes will eat.
The bird's kind of lethargic or whatever, then it's eating the bird. So it takes them
definitely
really good one to see. To me, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, if you ever get chewed on by a hognose, you'll notice like if you get bit and you remove them right away, you don't really get any venom. It takes them a long time to deliver it, and I think that's they have to chew for a while, and the more they chew on you, the more venom you'll get. That's why I always talk about like the pop can tab method. Like hurry up and remove them because you won't get envenomated if you remove them right away. But yeah, to use it, I mean that's kind of like their natural way they take down food. The more it struggles, the more venom it gets, and then it's going to be able to overpower it. So you do
that's what I'm saying. A lot of rear fanged, or not even venomous, but rear fanged animals like snakes. Isn't it a thing like they eat a lot of poultry, like birds? They eat a lot of birds because it hooks their feathers, right? So like
if they have, I don't know. You have to maybe I'd ask Stephen Cush about like boiga. I don't know I think they eat a lot of frogs and lizards. I think they eat small birds.
Stuff on the ground mainly.
Yeah, there's there's a lot of garter snakes aren't necessarily rear fang, but they have enlarged maxillary teeth, so they kind of almost are rear fang. They have enlarged maxillary teeth, and they secrete venom kind of like a hognose snake.
I know, isn't that crazy? That's something that I just learned about maybe a year or two ago that they were studying that.
Another interesting one is like people talk about like snakes poisonous and venomous, and they're like only the keelback snake is both poisonous and venomous. Garter snakes are actually in the Pacific Northwest. A lot of them have a heavy diet of rough-skinned newts, and rough-skinned newts highly toxic. They have a lot of neurotoxins, and they actually store it in their liver, the garter snakes. So a lot of garter snakes in the Pacific Northwest, other animals won't eat them because they're toxic from eating so many rough-skinned newts. So they're simultaneously venomous and poisonous, and a lot of animals can't even eat the garter snakes.
Bro, we're getting scientific on the Sippin Show. I'm loving this, dude.
That's pretty cool.
I've really enjoyed this episode. We're working on 2 hours. I mean, I don't like to hold everybody up, but maybe in the future, maybe when you're not so busy, if you ever wanted to jump on, man, we'd love to have
of course.
you.
Definitely do a part 2. Definitely down.
Yeah, man, for sure. Keep a lookout for that. I mean, I've literally learned more about hognose and about a lot of other things, about not just hognose, about essentially animals in general, different animals. I love it. You talked about salamanders and all kind of different crazy shit. So I love it, dude. I love my amphibians. But I guess we'll do our goodbyes, and I'm sad to say it, but I guess everybody in the chat, I love y'all. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for everything you do, the likes, everything, even the dislikes. We love it. Like I said, we don't care. I thank JMG, Jeff, down there for killing it. He's the hog man. You know what I'm saying? If you all need hognose, you need to go down there. And R.W.O for life. Every Thursday night, we got the R.W.O broadcast channel. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that bell so you don't miss the R.W.O show. It's wild. You don't never know what's going to happen. It's kind of crazy. Don't let your kids watch it. But, whatever. Justin, what you got?
Like I tell everybody, speed humps in the road, man. Keep your head held high and keep pushing over those speed humps. The day you bring your head down is the day you bring yourself down. Thanks, everybody in the chat for coming out. Jeff, thank you much for coming out, bro. It's definitely nice to finally meet you, finally get to chat with you. I see so much about you, man. You're a great guy. So it's finally get that one-on-one and let even the audience get to know you a little bit more too, So
yeah, thanks guys. Thanks Justin. Thanks Nick. Appreciate it.
And Jeff, if you got anything you want to plug, any shows, I know you do your podcast.
I do the podcast. Like it's every Friday. We might be changing, but it's we do on the Trap Talk Network We have Cooler Bread Fridays, where it's not always Cooler Breads. We'll talk genetics. We talk like everything. We do Python people too. We interview like everybody.
Come on.
And then I'll be at the Anaheim show next weekend, and that's in California, Orange County. So if you like the reptile super shows, I will be at Anaheim, and we'll have hognose snakes, leopard geckos, and a few Pokemon cards.
Pokemon. That's all I was gonna say. Look, next time if you come around again, we're talking fucking Pokemon.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a short conversation. I don't know what the fuck anything is. I know what Charizard and like Pikachu is.
Dude, I don't know anything about Pokemon. I was the guy that was always like, they're playing Pokemon in the lunchroom. They suck. You know, I never even fucking
check out the new Pokemon. It's entertaining, man. It's like, especially I got them in Japanese, so you can't read it. So you have to get what it is. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? They made a keychain Pokemon. I was like, they have keychains now? It's the keychain. That's what the Pokemon is. It's a fucking keychain with like eyes.
I seen that show, the Atlanta, the Bob show, the Gotta Catch 'Em All show or whatever.
Yeah,
and,
that's fun.
You were dealing in Pokemon cards.
Yeah, I did. It was Pokemon themed, so we went a little heavier with the Pokemon that show.
Come on.
Hell yeah! Well, y'all heard it, man. You know, stay tuned. You never know what's in the works for round 2. You never know. Sipping with Serpents. This has been episode 17. Again, Greg or Jeff, Greg, Carl, whoever. Fuck, I'm drunk.
Jeff.